Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. Just kind of the next video in this, I guess, little bit of a series or whatever you want to call it that I've been doing, which is just like 10 great blah blah blah, where I'll kind of pick a topic or a subject matter or something like that and just pick not necessarily the best, but it's like 10 great songs or 10 great albums or blah blah blah. So anyway, the other day I actually got this idea because I was this past weekend I was watching the movie High Fidelity for like the umpteenth time, and it just kind of made me think about all of the great music that I discovered from watching that movie from the first time, like years and years ago. Um, so it just kind of made me think about doing a video or doing one of these top 10, which is simply the 10 best artists or songs that I discovered from watching High Fidelity. Um, Again, it's pretty much everyone here I'm sure knows the movie, has seen the movie, and it was kind of one of the ultimate movies when it comes to vinyl lovers and kind of portraying the addiction and the love and the passion of it and all of that, and just incorporating so much music in the movie. So it's kind of classic in that regard. Like maybe 10, 12 years ago or something like that, I'd actually made a list just out of curiosity where as I was going through the movie, I wrote down every single song that was mentioned or played in the entire movie. And it ended up being like 137 or 147 different songs or artists that were mentioned in the movie. So again, quite a bit of music exposure like that. So anyway, these are my 10 the 10 best things I feel like I discovered by watching High Fidelity. One I was getting ready to put back because I picked out 11, but I figured I'd show it as an honorable mention, which was the Velvet Underground, and this is Loaded. Now, I chose to kind of show this as an honorable mention because before I saw the movie, I had heard of songs like Sweet Jane and stuff like that, but I didn't really know Velvet Underground. I certainly didn't know this album, which has Who Loves the Sun, which was one of the songs in the movie. But so yeah, still kind of honorable mention, but it did kind of raise my awareness of the Velvet Underground. But anyway, so just kind of an honorable mention off to the side, but let's just kind of jump right into the 10. The first three I'm going to show, which I think are kind of cool because these first three were all in the exact same scene of the movie. So like within a 4-minute, 5-minute time period, all three of these I was exposed to. And arguably, I feel my greatest discovery from the movie was being introduced to the Beta Band. And this is the three EPs. Because I had never even heard of the Beta Band, much less this particular album at the time I saw the movie. So, there's the scene when they're in the shop, and there's kind of like a busy Saturday afternoon kind of thing. And Kuzak just goes, "I will now sell 5 copies of the 3 EPs by the Beta Band." And it's just like, go for it. And then he does like it's a CD, but he does a needle drop on Dry the Rain. And that was my discovery of the Beta Band. And of course, the needle drop is done at the very end of the song, which is kind of the big climax part of the song, which is absolutely amazing. So yeah, my introduction to the Beta Band came right off of that, which was freaking awesome. Next here, in the exact same scene, this album was introduced to Stiff Little Fingers, Inflammable Material, where he was talking about that Green Day was influenced by 2 bands, The Clash, and another band called the Stiff Little Fingers. And I believe the needle drop he did was on, I think it was the song Suspect Device, was what he was playing in the store. And again, you caught a little shot of the cover, and you hear that track, and it's just like, oh, I got to find a copy of that at some point in time. So I was lucky enough to stumble across that. But just kind of, just kind of some punk. And actually, he was kind of right. I mean, when you listen to it, you can definitely hear like early influences that definitely kind of have some elements of what Green Day brought to the table later. So another great discovery there. And the third one that I discovered in that same scene was this one here, which is Psycho Candy by the Jesus and Mary Chain. When Barry was helping the guy out in the store, and he made the comment about like loving the Echo and the Bunnymen or whatever, and he's like, "What about the Jesus and the Mary Chain?" And the guy's like, "Oh, they always seem," and Barry's like, "They always seem what? They always seem great is what they always seem." They picked up where your Precious Echo left off, and you're running around complaining there's no more Echo albums. I can't believe you don't own this album. That's insane. Jesus. It just like throws the album down. So up to that point in time, I had not heard of the Jesus. I mean, I heard the name, but I had never listened to the Jesus and the Mary Chain. And so Psycho Candy was really my introduction to, finally discovering them. And definitely, of course, this is my favorite album by them. I mean, it's usually terms you probably use with psychedelic music and stuff like that, but just like really heavy, fuzzy, thick guitar, kind of alternative type of music, and just a fantastic album. Absolutely great album. So those three discovered in one scene, which was fantastic. Another one here, which was Bob Dylan, Oh Mercy. And technically, I kind of discovered Blonde on Blonde through the movie as well. But I think this one was a little bit bigger for me. I knew Dylan at this point in time, or at that point in time, I should say. But I was really just kind of on just the most mainstream of hits. It was Hey Mr. Tambourine Man, Like a Rolling Stone. That was kind of the Dylan stuff that I knew. But none of his B tracks or, the plethora of albums that he has out there, didn't really know any of that at that point in time. Because really, again, the first time I saw the movie was kind of when I was really still in, I still liked all my 80s stuff, my 80s R&B. I had my metal and all of that. But it was really kind of the grunge and post-grunge phase that I was in. And so, again, a lot of this stuff was being introduced to me for the first time. So, the song Most of the Time off of this album was just a fantastic discovery, and arguably one of my top 10 Dylan songs. So, love it to death, and that's why I discovered that album. The next one here, which is kind of the album that was used in the opening scene. I mean, you hear this kick in before you even see the first character in the movie. And of course, it's the You're Gonna Miss Me by the 13th Floor Elevators. Again, at this stage, I had not really been introduced to any type of psych or anything of that nature, so that just wasn't something on my radar screen. And yeah, so that was my introduction to the 13th Floor Elevators, which was awesome. And then I remember it was just like a few months later, I picked this up, and we took a trip up to Chicago, and I hit a couple record stores up there and found this in Chicago. It's amazing too. Like, you could have hundreds, if not thousands, of records, and yet you can look at almost every single one and remember exactly where you got it, even if it was like 10 plus 13 years ago or whatever. It's insane. But so yeah, 13th Floor Elevators, obviously an amazing introduction there. The next one here is not this particular album or any songs off this album, but I was introduced to this group through High Fidelity. Had never heard of them before. And it was Stereolab. And this is just one of the random albums I picked out, which is Sound Dust. But actually, Stereolab, I'm not sure if there was even a track that was played in the movie, but there was a deleted scene where Stereolab was being played. And again, I just kind of, heard her voice, and it just sounded kind of awesome. And then I went out and found a couple of CDs and another CD, and then of course, vinyl starts to come back around and all of that. So, I mean, as far as them like reissuing Stereolab stuff. So yeah, I mean, amazing band, just so unique, such an amazing, unique sound. And I totally discovered them through the deleted scene in High Fidelity. The next one here would be Belle and Sebastian. This is the boy with the Arab strap. Remember early on in the movie, this was the tape that he was playing, and when Barry came in and threw it out and put on his Monday morning tape and all of that. But he was playing the song Seymour Stein off of this. And it's just something about the song, it just kind of caught my attention. I just thought it was really cool. I had never heard of Belle and Sebastian, so kind of discovered this, and of course a lot of their other stuff. But this is still definitely my absolute favorite album by them. Seymour Stein's a great track, but Sleep the Clock Around is another fantastic song off of this. But I think my favorite is probably Ease Your Feet in the Sea. That's probably my favorite song off of this album. But it just has such a nice feel to it. It's almost flower power, but not quite. And it just has a nice, just a nice laid back kind of flow to it. And again, if you're not familiar with it by any chance, again, the first song I do recommend checking out on this is Ease Your Feet in the Sea. Very, very cool stuff. So great album there. And then we got, what, 3 more? Up until that point in time, I had never heard of Beefheart. You know, do you still have that French import Beefheart safe as milk? And then Barry does his "Let me see," and then he wouldn't sell the guy the album. He just like pissed him off so bad he goes storming out of the store. Yeah, so again, I'd never heard and decided to go check the album out and absolutely loved it. And so this was my introduction to Beefheart right here. There was no songs that were played, I don't think, by Beefheart in the movie, but you know, after picking this up, you know, Dropout Boogie is definitely my favorite song by them. So yeah, this is another great introduction. And the one thing I hate about that scene too is after the guy storms out, their other buddy that's in there with him says, "Hey, I don't have that album. I'll give you 40 for it." And then you know, he hands him the album. He says "sold," and you can tell this actor had never dealt with, handled, doesn't collect records or anything like that, because when he hands it to him and says "sold," he hands it to him and he grabs it by the corner. And the rest of the scene, while he's talking to him, telling him how stuck up they are and everything else, he's holding it by the corner, talking, the record's just flapping, and he has like his elbow, I think, on the counter, and he's just talking, and it makes me cringe every time I see that part of the scene. But you know, I still take it because that's how I discovered Beefheart. Next here, Liz Phair. High Fidelity was my discovery for her as well. And there was one scene where they had a really quick clip of the song Headache off of this album. And that was my first introduction to Liz Phair. So that was pretty cool. Found this copy, say, years ago. This came out in, what, 98. And so for a while, it was kind of a hard album to find. But I think they've reissued it once or twice recently. So it's a little bit easier to pick up now. But yeah, this is actually still a sealed copy. I haven't opened this yet, so a nice original pressing of that. But yeah, so Headache was my introduction to Liz Phair. And last but not least, Stevie Wonder. Now, of course, I wasn't introduced to Stevie Wonder in High Fidelity. I mean, I had known a ton of Stevie Wonder from, you know, especially his early days with Fingertips and stuff like that. I was a huge 80s fan with Stevie Wonder, so like I Just Call to Say I Love You was not something I was ever wild about. I never really liked that song. My older brother loved it, but I didn't. But stuff like Do I Do, Part-Time Lover, Love, Light, and Flight, like all of that stuff from the 80s was just golden with Stevie with me. And some of his, you know, much bigger hits I knew. But anyway, one that I didn't was I Believe When I Fall in Love off of this album. I had never heard that track before by Stevie. So that was my introduction to it, was again off of High Fidelity. So again, just a fantastic thing to discover there. So those were kind of my top 10. Of course, there were many more, but those were kind of my top 10 albums or artists that I discovered, or songs that I discovered from watching High Fidelity. So as you can probably tell by some of my quotes, I've seen that movie so many times that a lot of it's kind of seared right in my mind. But yeah, let me know, because I'm sure all you guys have seen it too. You know, any songs or particular artists that you discovered through watching the movie that became kind of big and significant for you, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching VC, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.